Now, I want to go back a bit to the concept of accomplishing anything in intellectual perseverance. Now, to me, often the difference between someone who's a higher level reasoner within a field and one who is not so high is the will to achieve within that area, the will to keep going even when those around you are saying you can't do it, it's above your level, it's too hard, or your own ego is saying that and it's beating you up and it's saying, I don't think you can do it, you're not going to write another book, you can't get through 10 chapters, you know whatever it's saying to you. So this, I think, for practical purposes, each of us should think about any time in our lives when we persevered through the difficulties where we felt this is very hard, and it was where we were sort of sweating, inside our minds, and it was painful, and we just wanted to give up, but we didn't give up. And we showed in that process that the race is to the tortoise and not to the hare. That the key is one key, assuming that we have the capacities to achieve in an area. So then if I have the capacity to achieve, then what I need to do then is take the steps forward every day. So go back to the 10-chapter book. You don't think of it as something that's going to be 350 pages. You think of it as something that you're going to write one piece of it. You're going to basically wrap that up. You're going to put that aside. You're going to go to the second piece of it. You're basically going to wrap that up, 80% done, coming back later for more editing. So you get yourself a process. You work out a process for yourself. And you realize that as you're going through this, before you even start, that there are going to be days when you want to give up, and you're going to be thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. And if you read the works of, let's say, great writers, they'll often say the key is to put yourself in the seat and get out the piece of paper and the pencil, or get out the computer and start working and put in the time. So that's just part of it, because you can have you may not have the capacities to achieve, let's say, as a great artist, but you may be willing to do the work. Well, you can do the work and do the work and do the work and persevere and persevere and persevere, but if you don't have the capacities, then you're never going to be that great artist.
Right. Yeah. In Death in Venice, Thomas Mann presents a famous composer at the end of his life, and he talks about how people think of music and writing as inspiration, and he's thinking to himself about it, and he says, certainly inspiration comes to you, but really it's what he calls Durchhalten, holding through in German, which is very much like intellectual perseverance, holding through. You have an inspiration all the time, and you got to work that into the overall flow, and then you hope for another inspiration, but even when it doesn't come, you still hold through and work your way through the problems, so that there are thousands of inspirations. And you can see intellectual perseverance just running through that all the way and not being satisfied with a single inspiration. William Butler Yeats, who many people would say is at least one of the greatest poets of the 20th century, said that on a very good day, 8-hour day, he would get 7 lines of poetry written. And I just think of that, if you contemplated that at the beginning of your life, okay, so I'm going to live for the next 50 years and I'm going to get 7 lines of poetry every day, it'd be very hard to go on. But if you just think of it, one poem at a time, one step at a time, it still takes intellectual perseverance, but it doesn't have that monument you were talking about, thinking of the 350-page book that lies ahead of you. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are different analogies we can use to help us continue to persevere. And one of them that I use when I'm writing is I imagine, let's say that I'm Michelangelo and I have this piece of marble. And when I get this piece of marble, it's just a block. And got to take out some tools and I've got to just start whacking at it. And, you know, so sometimes when I get to that point where I'm feeling like I just don't want to do this anymore, I'm sort of tired, sick and tired of it. You know, then I say to myself, just sit down and start whacking at it. You know, just start banging on it. Just get out your little tools and just sit there for an hour. And then I realized that after an hour and a half, you see, I'm still there. And I've gotten past that sense that I don't really want to do this anymore. I'm just, you know, like if I write another word on this subject, I'll scream. And it happens when you work with something over a long period of time, you really do get tired of the piece. It's just natural. You've gone over it and 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 you've gone over it. And originally you had the inspiration and that was well and good. And that was the exciting part when you said, okay, I can bring these together. And then, but when you're talking about a final published piece, that's very different from, oh, I've got some good ideas. I'll just dictate onto a piece of paper.
Oftentimes the accounts of inspiration coming to us on the spur of the moment are kind of off kilter. I mean, there's that famous one, Kekule, I think, who discovered the ring of elements, couldn't figure out how they fit together, these carbohydrates, and then fell asleep one night and dreamed that they were in a circle, dreamed of a snake biting its tail, and came up the next day with, that's how, I think it's benzene is formulated. So it's inspiration. It came in his dream, but the dream was the product of months and months of trying to work through this problem ahead of time. So it was inspiration prompted by intense intellectual perseverance over a long time. And I think many of our inspirations are like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that, again, the way the egocentric mind works, especially for me, is I'll say to myself, well, you know, you've been working on this a long time. And then if I were to actually clock the hours that I've put in, I would find it's not exactly as many hours as it seems like it has been. Right. Yeah. So it may be several years, but how many hours was I actually sitting down writing?